Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take a whole stack of sources and really pull out the crucial knowledge, the insights you need to get well-informed efficiently.
Think of it as your shortcut, to understanding what really matters in all this information.
Okay, so today we're diving into a really interesting perspective. It's from Ajahn Brahm. Based on a YouTube transcript from back in December 2016. It's called Develop Your Heart.
Right. And our mission here really is to explore Ajahn Brahm's take on, navigating life's problems, finding genuine happiness.
And also how we see ourselves, right, and the people around us.
Exactly. All based on what he shared in that talk.
What's particularly fascinating right off the bat is that we're looking at wisdom from a Buddhist monk.
Yeah.
Who's offering guidance on things like marriage and work, even though he's, spent over 40 years without those specific experiences.
It does make you pause, doesn't it?
It really does. So the first question you might have is, why do people seek this kind of advice from someone, seemingly so removed from everyday life?
That's a really fair question. And Ajahn Brahm himself, he kind of playfully acknowledges that maybe the free advice is part of the appeal, he jokes. But seriously, the sheer number of people who seek out monks, it suggests they're tapping into something, pretty significant.
Exactly. And his core argument seems to center on this idea that through practices aimed at stilling the mind.
Right, meditation and that kind of thing.
Yeah, monks connect with a kind of deep wisdom, a perspective that might offer solutions that, we miss in our usual hustle and bustle.
And what's really central to this is the importance he places on developing the heart.
The heart over the head.
In a way, yes. Cultivating compassion, inner stillness, rather than being solely driven by the constant churn of the intellect, the thinking mind.
He makes the point that this relentless thinking can actually cloud our judgment and get in the way of forming real, loving connections with people.
This is a great example for this marriage counseling. It's really relatable. He describes seeing two people who are fundamentally good people.
Decent individuals, yeah.
But they're struggling in their relationship. He sees their inherent goodness.
But they've lost sight of it in each other. And the reason, according to Ajahn Brahm, is that they've become, quote, lost in thoughts.
Lost in thoughts.
Forgetting the basics like kindness, compassion, forgiveness. That phrase, lost in thoughts, seems really key here.
Absolutely. And if you think about the broader implications, he suggests this overactive mind isn't just tough on relationships.
Right.
It also leads to feeling tired, mentally exhausted, and just a lack of clear thinking generally.
Okay, so this leads us nicely into a really memorable part of his talk, the hillside analogy. Can you sort of paint that picture for us?
Sure. So Ajahn Brahm shares this personal story. He's walking up the hill to his monastery.
A route he'd driven for, 7 years?
Exactly. Always driven it. And as he's walking, he's struck by the fact that he barely recognizes his own surroundings. It was a shock to him.
It's such a simple idea, but it really hits home, doesn't it? He even encourages you, the listener, to try it. Walk a familiar route you usually drive. See what you notice.
And the insight got even deeper when he stopped, just stood still on the path.
What happened then?
He noticed an incredible level of detail all around him. Vibrant colors, little things, a beauty that had just completely escaped him when he was in the car.
So he compares our daily lives to being in that moving car. We're always rushing, always moving.
Right. So the sensory input, the world around us, it doesn't fully register. We miss the details, the nuances. The colors are pallid, he says, rather than deep and rich.
This really just underscores the power of slowing down, doesn't it?
It really does. It allows us to actually see and experience the richness that's already there.
Okay, so we're seeing the importance of slowing down, connecting with the heart, getting out of being lost in thoughts. Now, Ajahn Brahm introduces 3 stages of mental development. What are those?
Right. He outlines 3 stages: recognition, familiarity, and ease.
Recognition, familiarity, ease.
So the first step, recognition, is simply noticing, maybe for the first time, what stillness, peace, beauty, freedom, what they actually feel like in our own experience.
Just getting a taste of it.
Exactly. Then comes familiarity. This is about spending enough time with these positive states, these feelings, so that we don't instinctively resist them anymore. We get comfortable with silence, with tranquility.
Instead of always needing noise or distraction.
Precisely. And finally, there's ease. This is when these positive states become more natural, more integrated into our lives. We become more fundamentally peaceful.
That makes sense. But what's interesting is his observation about people clinging to their problems.
Yeah, that's quite counterintuitive, isn't it? He notices people often cling to things like grief or marital issues, addictions even.
Why would they do that?
Well, he suggests it might be because they've become comfortable with the familiar negativity. It's what they know. Or maybe they're just afraid of the unknown that comes with letting go.
So he suggests these little day release moments, like quick meditations.
Yeah, or just conscious relaxation breaks,
Mhm.
as a way to simply recognize what the opposite of our usual negative states feels like, just to know it exists.
And that recognition, that opens the door to seeing something else he talks a lot about, innate beauty.
Exactly. Innate beauty within us and all around us.
Right. He kind of shifts the focus here, suggesting that the peace and happiness we're often searching for outside ourselves.
They're often already present right here. We just need to become still enough, quiet enough inside to perceive them.
And this appreciation for beauty, it's not just about nature, is it? It extends to how we see other people.
Absolutely. He suggests that when we start seeing the beauty in those around us, it naturally fosters greater respect. We move beyond just superficial judgments about them.
He even shares his own experience, saying that through meditation, he started perceiving the beautiful hearts of others.
Which leads to this really compelling idea that by actively looking for and acknowledging the beauty in others, even small things,
You can actually help them see it in themselves.
that's the idea. He offers this as a strategy even for dealing with people we find difficult, suggesting that maybe their perceived difficulty is partly our own perspective, blocking us from seeing anything else.
To really bring this home, he shares some powerful stories of transformation. Let's start with the prisoner. That was quite something.
It really is an insightful anecdote.
Yeah.
So Ajahn Brahm was teaching at a prison farm, and he got direct feedback from the inmates, which is great.
Yeah.
And one prisoner just straight up challenged him on this idea that there's beauty in everyone, said it wasn't true.
Okay, a direct challenge. So what did Ajahn Brahm do?
Well, never one to back down from a practical challenge, he proposed an experiment. He asked the prisoner to identify the person they disliked the most in the whole prison. And it turned out to be this senior prison officer, who apparently everyone considered quite cruel.
Okay, so the task.
The prisoner's task was simple but difficult. Serve this officer tea and coffee every day, but crucially, do it with genuine care and attention. Focus on how the officer liked it. Make it the best possible cup.
And how long did this go on for?
For 3 months, the prisoner kept doing it, pouring the tea, the coffee, with his intention of kindness, even though the officer completely ignored him, didn't acknowledge it at all.
Wow, 3 months of being ignored. That takes persistence.
It really does. But then finally, a tiny breakthrough.
Yeah.
A simple grunt from the officer when the prisoner offered him coffee one day. Just a grunt.
But that was significant.
Hugely significant in that context. It marked a shift. And within a few more weeks, the prisoner felt comfortable enough to offer the officer biscuits with his drink, again with that same care.
And this time?
This time, he got a thank you.
A thank you from that officer.
Exactly. And Ajahn Brahm emphasizes how massive the impact of that single thank you was within the tough environment of that prison. It rippled through the inmate population.
Wow. It just shows the power of seeing and nurturing even the tiniest spark of positivity, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's about focusing on that potential beauty.
Then he shares another story, also quite remarkable, about a woman facing severe domestic abuse.
Yes, this one is very intense. A woman came to the Buddhist center seeking refuge, really just to escape the violence initially.
Understandable.
But through what she learned there, she started to apply this same principle, trying to see the beauty, the potential goodness in her abusive husband.
How does she do that?
She began consciously acknowledging and appreciating his very rare, very small acts of kindness over a period of 7 years.
7 years. That's incredible dedication.
It is. And it's really important to stress, Ajahn Brahm presents this as a very specific, exceptional case. He's not giving general advice for dealing with abuse.
Right. That's a crucial caveat.
Definitely. But the story serves to powerfully illustrate the potential for inner transformation, the potential for finding beauty, even in what seem like the absolute most hopeless negative circumstances.
And to help us grasp this idea of inner beauty, he uses that lovely image of the lotus flower.
Ah, yes, the thousand-petal lotus. It's a beautiful analogy. At night, the lotus is closed up, and the outer petals can look quite rough, quite plain even.
Protective.
Exactly. But then, with the warmth and the light of the sun,
It starts to open.
gradually unfolds. And as it opens, the inner petals are revealed to be increasingly beautiful, more fragrant, more delicate, layer upon layer.
So he connects this to us, to people.
Yes, that our outward appearances, maybe our rough exteriors or guarded behavior, it can often conceal incredibly beautiful inner selves, inner lotuses.
Waiting for the right conditions to open, like trust and care.
Precisely. The warmth and light of kindness, perhaps.
He backs this up with another personal story too, doesn't he? About judging someone at a retreat.
He does. He talks about seeing this man at a retreat, heavily tattooed, looked quite rough, the kind of person you might subconsciously make assumptions about. But it turned out this man was having incredibly profound meditation experiences, really deep insights. It just reinforced for Ajahn Brahm how easily we misjudge based purely on the surface.
So he then explicitly extends this idea to the difficult people in our lives.
Yes, he does. Maybe it's difficult in-laws, he mentions, or tough business competitors, or just anyone who pushes our buttons. He suggests we just consider the possibility that beneath the surface we find difficult, there might be a deeper, unseen beauty, a hidden lotus.
And he even refers back to that incredibly powerful story of the woman.
Whose life was, in a very real way, saved by her determination to see the beauty in her husband, despite everything. It's a stark reminder of the potential impact.
Okay, so this is all very profound, but how do we actually do this? How do we put this concept of recognizing inner and outer beauty into practice day to day? Ajahn Brahm introduces a key idea here.
He does. He talks about kindfulness.
Kindfulness, not mindfulness.
Well, it's essentially mindfulness plus kindness. Mindfulness observes, kindness cares. He sees this combination, kindfulness, as the warmth and light of the sun that allows our inner lotus, and perhaps the lotuses of others, to blossom.
I like that. Mindfulness and kindness together.
Yeah. And he shares a funny little story about another monk. Apparently, this monk radiated so much joy and peace from his practice.
That people thought he was high.
Exactly. People mistakenly thought he must be on the gear, as Ajahn Brahm puts it, because they couldn't comprehend that level of happiness coming just from inner peace.
It really highlights the gap between external judgments and what's actually going on inside, doesn't it?
It really does. He also makes these brief mentions of historical examples, like Winston Churchill apparently keeping a Buddha statue for peace during the war.
Interesting.
And his own positive experience attending the opening ceremony when a Buddha statue was placed in a UK prison, seeing the potential for peace even there.
So the fundamental message seems to be that true happiness, true beauty, it comes from within. It's not about external things, drugs, alcohol, possessions.
Precisely. And he actively encourages us, you, the listener, to recognize your own inner goodness, your own inner beauty. He says it's not boastful to do that.
It's essential.
It's essential, he argues, because acknowledging our inner beauty, our innate goodness, builds genuine confidence, self-respect, resilience.
And that helps with negative emotions.
Yes, he suggests it naturally lessens things like anger and depression. He even describes anger sometimes as being directed at oneself, maybe a deep disappointment turned inward. Depression too, perhaps.
And he uses that simple but really effective image, holding a mistake right up close to your eye versus holding it at arm's length.
Yeah, to illustrate compassion and perspective. When it's too close, it fills your whole vision. At arm's length, you can see it for what it is, part of a bigger picture, and deal with it more kindly, whether it's your mistake or someone else's.
Okay. And then finally, right at the end, Ajahn Brahm gives a little teaser for another talk.
He does. He mentions an upcoming talk he was giving on the Buddha Superman.
Buddha Superman, what's that about?
Well, he connected back to our discussion. The idea seems to be that our inner superpowers, things like kindness, compassion, wisdom, they're actually far more effective in dealing with negativity and evil, if you like, than aggression or force.
So kindness as a superpower.
Pretty much. He even shares a charming little cartoon story he saw about a super monk facing some evil inventor with a death ray.
Okay.
And instead of fighting, the monk just expresses genuine admiration for the incredible technology the inventor created. He focuses on the beauty of the creation, if you will.
And that disarms the villain.
Completely throws him off. It just highlights, in a playful way, the unexpected power of kindness and seeing the good, even in difficult situations or people.
It really brings into focus the strength that lies in kindness, doesn't it? Not weakness.
Absolutely. That seems to be a core message.
So as we wrap up this deep dive then, what's the main takeaway for you, our listener?
I think it's the potentially profound impact of consciously shifting our focus, moving away from the constant noise of our minds, the head.
Towards the deeper wisdom of the heart.
Exactly. Taking time to slow down, to really see and to actively look for the inherent beauty that Ajahn Brahm believes is within ourselves and actually within everyone we encounter.
And crucially, this isn't just some, abstract feel-good philosophy.
Not at all. He presents it as a really practical approach, a way to tackle problems differently, to cultivate genuine lasting happiness, and to build much more meaningful, positive relationships.
Which leaves you with a really important point to consider, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe think about one person or one situation, just one in your own life right now.
Someone difficult or a challenging circumstance.
Could be. And just consider what might happen if you consciously try to apply this principle. If you actively looked for the hidden beauty, the potential good in that person or situation, how might that change things?
Might it lead to a different outcome, a more positive one?
It's worth contemplating, isn't it? And maybe even more importantly, take a moment, perhaps later today, just to reflect on your own inner lotus.
And think about what kindfulness, that mix of awareness and kindness, what warmth and light you can bring to help it truly bloom. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.